Maybe we expand uh, on knowledge in a very short way. Inspiration and intellect comes when the emotional part interact with the physical part at a point of purity. What this means is that you add to your intellect or you get inspired when the emotional strength, which is your blood circulation, finds balance with the physicality at the level of your comfort. That's what, and that's when you achieve that, when you reach that point, you find you add to the strength of your soul. Inspiration and intellect is not something which comes. It's when the emotion is in balance and in the right order with your physicality. You find out a lot of people get inspired when they do certain things, certain procedures, certain what we call autism. But it's not autism, but in that point when they do things, they bring their physicality at a level which is in balance with the emotional at the point of release and interaction. Now you understand how you get enlightened, or you find intellect. And then once this intellect is achieved and is accepted to be correct, is added to your RNA, and the RNA adds for it in balance into DNA. And that's how you transfer the knowledge through your genes.
Did I lose everyone?
It's one of those toward the end of the workshop blockbusters that Mr. Keshe likes to drop sometimes.
No,
Yeah,
when you're
I'm sorry,
ready,
it's
that
my
was
fault I was
good.
late.
That was good.
in time, people understand in part what was said in past 2 minutes. Because man never understood how he become creative, how he receives the intellect, or he comes up with the inspiration to do something. There has been a lot of questions in respect to the knowledge of man in and about space and space technology and, for example, the pyramids. Let us unravel a secret. You see pyramids in all locations around the world. And there's been a mystery how it's been done. The knowledge of space and the time when a man is ready to contact what we call to become part of universal community was taught to man thousands of years ago. If the man thinks it's the first race, our generation, which has been to space and seen the earth from outside, I say to you, good morning. You've been mistaken. In time when artifacts re-evaluated and re-translated, you will find the man thousands of years ago was given the picture of the earth. Our forefathers through space have seen the earth the way we see it from outside. And the map of the earth is in the writing, even in what do you call it, in Egypt. But has not been understood what it means. In space, geological effects, as you see, like earthquakes and volcanic eruption, as we see on other planets and stars, is normality. When the first seed of human race intelligence showed itself in the first contacts, when the man moved from Central East Africa into the center towards Egypt, where is the beginning of Nile, man was shown at that point the structure of the pyramids and the working of the communication and energy and lift. Then, for protection of the race, that it will not be destroyed in one famine and in one earthquake or whatever, man was placed in different positions around the earth with the same teachings. In so many ways, Columbus was not the first one who crossed the Atlantic. Man crossed it through the help of what we call friendly touch, to be placed in the positions that will guarantee the survival of the intelligence and the race. And that's how you see pyramids in different positions on this planet, and all built about and around the same time. How did man thousands of years ago went across Atlantic and built, or went into different part of the Asia and built the same thing? The same structure, the same knowledge was given to the race, and man was positioned in different locations for the guarantee of the survival by spreading it. Because we have seen the destruction and elimination of races due to physical interactions. So, if there has been, and they always talk about the mother gene, the knowledge was given to the scientists of the time, the man at the time who understood, and was shown the earth from outside. So, in so many ways, in time, the knowledge was kept to become a secret that the others don't know, that it became a privilege. And then the knowledge got lost because the last privileged man died with the knowledge. And a lot of these privileged people destroyed all the science and all the information which was given to them, that no one else can reach. So maybe we solve another mystery why you see pyramids in the same formation, in the same format, built in different positions around the same time. It wasn't the Egyptians which went to South America or you went to Central Asia building pyramids. For guarantee of the survival of the race, human race were taught the same thing at the same time, and as a tribe spread to guarantee the existence and the survival.
So there really was no place on Earth that you couldn't see a pyramid?
Where we position races, or what you call it, the groups, they built it. This is, in so many ways, goes back to the boat of Noah. They were given the rights to every knowledge, from seed to the taming of the animals. And they're all being spread at the same time. That guarantees, if for example there is an earthquake, let's say in Asia, and the whole race goes, then there is no sign of intelligence. And like a father, you look after all children, you accommodate them and you buy them the best hotels or the best houses that they can live. So the race was spread and the knowledge was given. to build these structures is not that was given to one man and he did it at the same time. You had to allow the multiplication of numbers that could guarantee the building. And at the same time, in the tools and in the writings, when the scientists understand, now that we open the knowledge of the plasma and gravitational magnetic fields, you understand how they managed to move all these stones so heavy in position 2. The tools are not the way it's been assumed up to now. As I said, we opened the movie of the man for the man to see. So the knowledge was given and the race was spread for guarantee of survivals by the people who knew the possibility of the total annihilation of the race. This is why, as I said, you see races. Because at the time, with the knowledge which was available to what we call the guardians, was well known which part of this planet will survive, according to the knowledge which we had from other planetary systems. And if you look, nowhere where the pyramids are set are points of disaster as such. And they have survived, and that's why you see them. You do not see so much pyramids in the earthquake zones, because at that time the knowledge was well available to what we call the guardians, that these points cannot be built in these zones. And that's what's going to happen in 20, 30, 100,000 years from now. That the race will have the knowledge to be able to do and in a way, once is matured, to join the universal community. There were no internets, there were no, what do you call it, telephone and videos and cameras that they could show each other how to build pyramids. Pyramids were not made by were not assembled by the tools as you have assumed up to now. Very much what you see in the form of the box hanging was available to the people who were lifting tons and positioning it precisely. Some of the rituals to hide the knowledge is still seen in the structures around the planet. At the same time, as I was explaining to the knowledge seekers in the past few days, the love of God, the carrying the information for guiding the man, was given at the same time around the same pyramids to men. So, you see Jerusalem. You see South America with their own prophets. You see Central Asia with their own prophets. Once we isolated for guarantee, or once we placed for guarantee, the same opportunity of what you call prophets was given to them with the same message. That in the future, one race of man will not be superior to the others. And that's why we see the spread of faith, and with the same thing. So now, if those who've been reading the transcripts and the writings which is found in different locations near these pyramids, retranslate and redefine the condition in respect to the working of the what you call star formations, you will find the tools and you'll find the first maps of this planet 20, 30,000 years ago, which was given to the man, and our forefathers have flown above to see it, that they could understand it. It was not on the basis of blind, we say you do. It was
Yes, actually, I
understood.
think I've seen that been released lately within the last couple of months, where there's even the map is accurately depicting the continent of Antarctica too. And there is, we didn't even know what Antarctica looked like until they were able to go through the ice with the satellites. And it's very accurate.
We allowed man to see the planet and understand why he cannot join the universal community. And now,
So there
the
was obviously
knowledge.
people asking, just like today,
What do you mean?
people asking today, why can we not join the universal community?
You achieved peace in Ukraine, you start a seed. As you know, yesterday out of nowhere, I was just like pulled to the computer, and I just came on, and the Peace Corps team was busy with Ukraine. I had no intention to go near the computer. For me, the day was over. But as the core peace team, you give your soul, you need it. So I came, without me physically knowing that you lot are busy with it. We support totality. And the whole point is the peace is the cornerstone of entry. The universe is very much like supernova condition. It's very much like the division of a neutron to a proton and electron. The universe expands in the environment of what we call the unicos. As long as there is room for it to expand, and as long as the other universes can receive and accept what this universe is giving. And when the point of the balance comes, as we said, when the gravitational magnetical field, one of the two passes the other one, then when, for example, magnetical field reduces, that it reaches the level of the strength of the gravitational, you have a balanced surface, and then because you're in a liquid state or a plasma state, the surface goes below, the atmosphere goes below the physical surface, which the gravitational field, the strength allows, so that surplus is released into the atmosphere or into the environment. And then you find, because you lost part of the mass, you find reduction in gravitational magnetic field, and then a new atmosphere is created. The release of what you call from corona leads to the reduction of the gravitational magnetic field, the strength, the mass of the star. And it gets to the point that this cannot be sustained, and then what you call the total opening. The gravitational fields go so centralized, become so heavy, that the magnetical field cannot be sustained to a point. And then it comes to a point of balance. The surplus on the top is released. It's very much like peeling an orange. The top peel is released. And then you have that as an energy released into the plasma of the star, and part of it is released into the plasma of the galaxy and the universe. And then you have the new balanced situation, what you like to call the red dwarf or a reduced section. The smaller version is at a point where the new balance between the magnetical and gravitational field is reached. The surplus, which is released in what you call supernova, is all in a plasmatic and very much like a lymph condition. Has no entity of the matter. Till it arrives at a point in the plasma gravitational magnetic field strength within the shell of the star that can manifest itself as matter. There is no fusion as has been assumed in the world of this creation of the universe, and has been another fallacy in the science of man. In your body, when the lymph reaches the point of the gravitational magnetic field of the cell of a heart, it becomes a cell of a heart. And the same lymph, when it reaches at the point of magnetic gravitational field of the tissue of the muscle of a leg, it becomes the muscle of the leg. So the same thing happens in a supernova. The plasma is released, and at the point, depending on the gravitational magnetic field within the cluster of the solar plasma, then the materials are produced according to that strength in that region. So now, for example, with this gravitational magnetic field of the new condition in the galaxy and the position of the galaxy in the universe, allows a new condition that new materials which could not be produced before in this solar system to be appeared. And then at the same time, the ones which could be produced before, now because of the change of the position, strength, cannot be produced anymore. Most probably you cannot find any more gold once this, what we call our star, goes through its gravitational magnetic field balance. Even though we can see a structure of the gold in the universe somewhere else. Fusion, the way they say that all the atoms fuse and becomes like iron and the rest, is a fallacy because they never understood the conversion and the work of the gas and the work of the working of a plasma in the universe. It's the gravitational magnetic field strength of the environment which decides what matter will be appeared, and the speed of the current flow through it dictates the solidity. You have the pressure, now you have the spread, and then now you create a current, which is the flow of the magnetic field amongst the plasmas, which then decides another factor of what material in what position in respect to the pressure and the flow of the information across the plasma.
If I may interrupt for just a second, Mr. Keshe. The reason why I was asking if every star is different is because there's a lot of people that are being hung up on the perfection part of, measuring down to the atoms. And I don't think it really matters, because if every star is different out there, then what you create is going to be different. It's going to be unique, just like those stars. And you don't have to get caught up on the perfection of everything except for an exact replication. And exact replication is a copy paper and is boring. But express your creativity, I think, is what I was told or being told or trying to convey.
Yeah, your uniqueness comes on due to a few factors. One of them is the gravitational magnetic field balance, or what you call the mass. One, it comes from the plasma which this mass creates. One comes from the gravitational magnetic field of the environment of the star where it is. And then at the same time, every entity, even the neutron in the furthest distance of this universe from the center, their size, their shape, their conductivity, their release is dictated by the center mass in the center of the solar universe. Even though we think it's just a star on the edge of the universe, that star, its whole operation through gravitational magnetic field, because it came originally from what you call what I call the black band, or what you call the black hole in the center of the universe. It has its connection because it came from it. That dictates its size and its strength and its position and how it can interact. So doesn't matter how unique you are, your position, the shape, the size is in a way controlled by the central mass, which is in the center, what we call the central black hole line. And then once you become a multiple of these that you can make decision, then you become and you receive what you call intelligence, or you receive the emotion, what you call the soul. And then in the same way as the central core, black hole in the center of the universe has dictates and affects and touches the electron or a proton on the edge of the same universe, so is this love of the creator, goes through the same channel. Then if you have collectively, then you understand the creation. Most of the creations, created things around the universe do not have a voice to speak, but they communicate through their emotions and their soul. And now we are teaching the man to reach that level. And when you reach that level, you do not need a prophet, you don't need guidance, but you need support. And that's where the support comes, through the soul of the 12 members of the core team. Peace, what we call a core peace team. Even though in the future, in space or on the ground, you open and give access to load and unload, you can control this part of the system, then you stay intact inside. It's very much at the moment, if you get a bullet through a body of an aircraft at high altitude in a jet, decompression causes destruction. If you be able to understand how to create these layers, you can open your craft anywhere in the space, without touching the rest of what's inside. You change the containment, you change the plasmatic gravitational field of containment. If you look in the design of most of the spacecrafts, we allow a hump in the middle, which converges downwards. This is your port of entry and exit. This is where, from that point on, you create one field above, which is for people inside, and one field in that cage according to the environment which you're going to unload. This is the way it is done. This is the way you create confinement and containment. This is how you allow opening and closing and entry and exit. But it goes back to the principle of creating a containment for your material, for your fields, for gravitational and magnetical. Yesterday we received, we had a package of needles from Sohail to be processed by Arman for Elia in nano coating. And I was explaining how the structure of acupuncture works in the body of the man. If you take that needle and convert its energy into plasmatic magnetic field of, let's say, iron or nickel or copper or whatever it is, then that gravitational magnetic field of metal creates a stronger field in that region. So it attracts or dictates the position. And that's how the acupuncture works. With acupuncture, when you put, it's very much like the way you create conditions in your reactors. You bring the energy towards the higher mass, because now you dictate a condition. So when you put a higher antenna in, because there is a fundamental point, again, which has to be, and is never been considered. As we said in the health side, the minute you put food or earth enters your lung, or you put food in your mouth, the minute they pass a certain position in the back of your throat, they become and they became, they become and they behave as a Ganser state of matter, not the matter anymore. So they behave as a gravitational magnetic field entity and not as a matter condition. The same is when you put acupuncture pin inside your body, or is put in the body by the doctor. Body is a vacuum condition. The point of the entry and where the needle is, from that point, the metal behaves in a Ganz state conductivity position. This is what has to be realized. So now you put in a stronger Ganz position, which is a metal. You have to add the total, what do you call it, the strength of the amino acid of the body. And you find out these metals, because of their concentration, have a higher mass. So they extract or they attract the energies from their environment. And that energy is released like an antenna through the center, the way we push the nanolayers and you see the energy coming out. And that's how acupuncture works. It's not that you put a metal in and you release the energies, or it's the whole principle lies and works on the basis of the moment the needle enters the body, from skin down, doesn't matter how deep you put it, the metal behaves in a nano layer, nano coating Ganser state of matter. Because now it's in a vacuum condition. So you dictate a pressure point. You do the same thing in your course. That's why acupuncture is very active, it's very effective on a pain, because pain is emotional. The pain threshold is emotional, and what has been said in the emotional part of the brain. So by releasing the plasmatic magnetic field of the emotional side, the physicality loses the energies received, and then you don't feel the pain. In the coming time, we'll release new equipments, we'll show these kind of works very rapidly. It's in the process that we will show, hopefully in the next few months, with the work in Barry equipments, which you can eradicate illnesses in minutes. Because what you do at the moment, you take medicine in the same way that it works in the body. Now you effectively target the point, to its gravitational magnetic field. In the coming time, eradication of the cancer will be in matter of minutes. This is the way the breakthrough will come. Understanding up to now, you always consider the GANs a nano layer. Now, the next step in the structure of the learning is gravitational magnetic field pressures. Gravitational magnetic field, or what you call B12. These are part of the structure of the conversion of the fields of the lymph into the matter. What gravitational magnetic field at a point is dictates what the lymph converts into. And that's how and what the world of science and medicine have never understood. The lymph carries one level full energetic, and that's why it's transparent, energy in the plasmatic gravitational magnetic field. And when, as we go back to the medical teaching, it reaches the skin of the organ, it reaches the position where gravitational magnetic field pressure is of a given strength, it manifests itself in that, in the shape of or in the form of that element. So there is no necessary point of remembering where it has to be the carbon, where it has to be, let's say, zinc or iron or whatever. The body creates gravitational magnetic fields of a given strength through the neurosystem and the blood and the lymph, that the lymph in that position, due to the skin or what we call the core, cover, the element changes. This is how conversion in the body is done. So now this knowledge has to be brought back into the learning and control of the nuclear reactors, in the control of the, what do you call, space reactors. And in so many ways, then you don't need to have a spectrum of material. You have the lymph. You have the lymph, and then you decide what space position you want to create gravitational magnetic field of. And on the basis of twinity, you will attract it or be repelled from the position you have created, depending if you create a gravitational magnetic field or your magnetical field or gravitational field is more or less in respect to that position. The structure of the space reactors in the coming time will be all one material, one GaNs. You don't need high voltage when you have GaNs or nano layers. Time of high voltage for creating plasma is gone, is finished.
Right, that's what I mean. The video shows them using high voltage in order to create the plasma ball, and going along with their concepts, like you just said, we don't need those high voltages anymore, given our new knowledge. So let's do the same aspect, but with lower voltage.
Yeah, but the thing is, if you understand the true meaning of the voltage, we are still doing the same thing, but with the bigger numbers, we are spreading the load. With the reason, this is what the people like in CERN and nuclear centers are getting spooked with our work, is that they don't understand. We are not doing anything any different. The only thing is different is that now we release energy of billions and billions of littles that totally they are very much bigger. And that's where yes, exponentially, but in a very different curvature. It's if you understand it exponentially, but look at the shape and twist like in vortex, but the helix vortex. That kind of exponential.
Click.
You understand? That's why RNA and DNA carry such a helix condition, shape. Because from one end to another, The higher you go, the more energy you carry, plus what is from the bottom. This is what never understood. This is maybe explains a lot of to genetic scientists. Go back to the teaching of the health section 2-3 sessions ago. The energy received by the brain is not through the food, but there's mostly the gravitational magnetic field, which released by the what do you call it, degansizing the material we swallow, plus the gravitational magnetic field of a material which comes with from the lung, plus what is added with the heart with directionality to the bottom of the brain. So you start in the vortex of a little in your stomach, and it adds up with the lung and the heart, and by the time it gets to the brain, it still is exponential, is vortex and is helix at the same time. And then you receive a massive, you still receive from the lower to the higher. And that's how the body of the man works. And that's why RNA and DNA that have the helix, or the one on top of the helix has totally, even though it's the same amino acid in the chain, has totally different energy level than the same amino acid at the bottom. Because in that process, it still receives the energy, even if you put it vertical. The higher strength pulls toward the top and adds to it. It's very much north and south. When the magnetic fields go through the center of the Earth from the South Pole, they don't just go zoom up. They go into the helix vortex condition that at the top, due to the structure, come up in the openness. This is something which the scientists have to understand. And in these conditions, you achieve it. But your vortex, putting a wire in the center, because you created a nano layer in the center, is directioned towards it. And you can drain as much energy as you like, or condition in the flow of the field. You create your pressure. Our amino acid allows the manifestation of matter for us to see, to hear, to touch. What becomes as the strength of the amino acid according to the environment we live in. So, if your amino acid magrav is in the strength of the inner part of the principal matter, principal magnetic field strength, at that point the field appears to you as a matter, a tangible, detectable. And if the amino acid, or what we call the point of interaction and vision or detection, is somewhere between man's matter condition and the principal matter, then in that point the matter appears tangible, detectable to whatever has that strength. Let me explain to you if it's hard to understand. The principal matter, the principal strength field is the sun. The sun continuously radiates its fields in both plasmatic magnetic fields. And these fields radiate outwards continuously. But when these fields interact with the gravitational magnetic field of the Earth, which is a composite, then the interaction manifests itself as a plasma which is equal to the strength of the nitrogen. So, in that process of interaction, some fields are released, which are still small packages of nitrogen, what do you call it, energy. But because of the field strength of the center of the Earth, they get pulled to the center, and these plasmas, what we call light. But in fact, on the upper layer, the plasmatic magnetic field of the principal matter, which was the sun, in the transition time between the sun and the earth, at this point in the energy level of earth gravitational magnetic field, manifest themselves as nitrogen. So if you go further out into the boundary, because of the weaker strength of the fields by the time they get to Saturn, because they have interacted with other fields on the way, they have the strength in conjunction with the strength of the Jupiter, or Saturn let's say, to create a field balance of what we call helium or hydrogen. So from the point of our observation of the man, the material is nitrogen and becomes solid here, but is helium at Saturn point of observation. But it's all the same ray from the same center. This is and how shall be the creation of God, and there is no difference. It depends where, at what strength your field is made for you to be able to observe. In fact, if we go to the lower levels, which we don't observe, beyond the matter level of which observable to us as human being, there are billions of stars. Billions and billions of stars. More than in a human level. Because as further you go, the more matter you create. But is not visible to us because we sit above it from our field strength. And the same shall be for the ones which sit at higher. As in the strength. So this is how it is and how the plasma works. You have principle, which is a center. It takes time to reach the point of the observer, and the only way you can observe is when it's at your strength. So at that point it becomes entity tangible or livable. And one of the processes that you learn through development of these three plasmas, you can reach the full spectrum of from the principle to the lowest level. So in the future you develop technologies where you want to be, to know if what creatures, what entity exists in the environment which you are, because you can through systems create a matching environment, then you are, to you becomes visible who you are in the presence of. We will be able to produce mono gravitational magnetic fields which is in line with the rest of the gravitational magnetic fields in the universe. Then the speed of travel in space becomes 0 time. This needs a development. You can already do it in different way, it's been done in different way, but the purest form sits with the Japanese through the Fukushima disaster. You can produce it, but you cannot reach the purity which is with the Japanese. It can be done, it happens naturally all the time in the universe, but this is a shortcut. In fact, it's not a new technology, it's part of our own body. We are made of it, but we never understood it. It's not a new science, it's the science which we are created out of, but we never understood it ourselves. Now we do. That flare which comes from the sun is purely created by the interaction of the gravitational magnetic fields between the matters on the surface in the plasma condition and the gravitational magnetic field of the center of the star. When they are in a condition of a balance in layers, they create like a nano layer, so they absorb all the lights. They absorb all the energies. There is no friction, and whatever it is held. And as the surface is dynamic, and as the internal structure of the sun is a constant flow, these fields move away due to the dynamism, and then whatever has been held in there It has to be released and become sun flare. In one way, you should be able to understand why we get massive sun flares every 11.5 years when the polarity changes on the sun. The polarity changes. When the polarity changes, the gravitational magnetic field from the center is become in rotation to move. And in that process, it creates different fields which interact with the plasma surface on the top, which are like nanolayers. So this leads to storage or holding of and absorbing of all the fields. That's why it becomes black. The blackness in nanolayers is due to absorption of spectrum of the lights or all the energies. So now all the energies are kept, and as the internal core moves for polarity to change, then the fields move, and then the energy which is captured in this field is released, and we call it sun flares. Now we understand the full process of sun flares and why we get dark spots on the surface of the sun during the change of polarities, and we get frightened of it and we say it's going to be huge activities. The only reason for it is at the time of polarity change every 1.5 years, due to monomaterial of the plasma internally of the star, the interaction between different fields on the surface and inside leads to creation of a very much plasmatic nanolayers which absorb all the energies of the man's spectrum vision light, which looks to us dark. And as the fields move over each other, as the internal gravitational magnetic field is in motion, then whatever is captured in this capsule is released, and because it's in the matter state and on the surface, it gets pushed outward due to the high gravitational magnetic field of the sun itself, and becomes a sun flare. In a very short time, in the next few years, all the televisions we see is useless, because electronics to plug in, you don't need all these facilities. As I explained, if you can create a free plasma condition, you can see a three-dimensional full picture of the entity you can create inside. In teletransportation, what you call it, to transfer one to another, or from one point to another, you don't take every single plasma of every single cell. You create a condition of an envelope, you transfer the envelope, whatever is in the envelope gets transferred. So what is mean in what we call it, this fantasy dream of teletransportation, and they take pieces of you and they assemble you, this is all fantasy. Now that you've seen that bubble in the center of your core, that's your new package, that's your new postage system. Whatever you put in that, and you can make it to be at the condition of gravitational magnetic field, you transfer the envelope. It's very much like you take an envelope. It doesn't matter if you put money in it, you put letters in it, you put films in it. The envelope carries the matter to destination, and when you open it, you receive it the same. It doesn't change its entity from money to metal, and from a film to a paper in the way. This is the extension of knowledge. You don't, this fantasy of teletransportation, you take pieces, this is all what man could understand. Now you understand how you do it. You've seen the bubble. Now you use that bubble in your reactors. You use the free plasma, you put the package in it, be it the love letter, be it the $1 million, or be it the car, and then through the system you've seen on which Marco and Arman made with the 6 reactors on the base, you direct the direction of the transfer of this envelope to the destination point at the gravitational magnetic field. It's got to manifest itself. And when it reaches that point, because you created the envelope to be released, at that point you receive the totality. Man with his soul at the same time. It's very much like us as a human being on this planet. This planet is traveling all over the solar system. It's done for billions of years. None of us have left one of us behind 1 million miles away a few days ago. Because the envelope of the Earth, gravitational magnetic field, is made is an envelope. Whatever happens in this envelope is the letter which is in the post. We say we meet such a meteorite or such a asteroid or whatever in such a destination point which is near to us and is going to hit us. It's what is in the envelope, it's just ripping it open and you see what's inside. It's a meteorite which hits the Earth and opens the envelope. Whatever is in it cannot be held, it opens up and it goes into space. These are the new dimensions in the science which what has been fantasized now is a reality. It's just need to develop it, but you have to understand the whole package. End of December 2011, there's a further ball found in Brazil on the February of 2012, 2 months later. And these balls were found exactly on the same line of, what do you call it, longitudinal or the height of the Brazil and Namibia. And coincidentally, the Iranian test of capture of American plane was on the 4th of December of 2011. Now, if you look at the structure, is 1.1 meter, the other one is slightly smaller. These are man-made systems. We have seen these, we are aware of these. These, in what you see, is very much a special material. The copy of this steel is here within the foundation. I have shown it to the knowledge seekers. Okay, now we start explaining this. I go to one of the first fundamental points in the teachings. As you know, we speak about maggrav, which is the magnetical and gravitational. What this means is we have a magnetic field which goes out, what we call magnetically, and we have gravitational field which comes back in, if you look at it this way. And both end in the center. The magnetical, which is the red one, goes outwards, and the gravitational, which is the green one, is coming inwards. So what you have is, at some points, the two fields in interaction will release or will create a plasma which is a strength and magnetic field is as a visible line or at the point of the detection of the human eye or equipment. This is how matter is created in plasma. What does this mean? Is as magnetical fields go out and as gravitational fields pull the fields in together, at the point of their interaction interface, when they're in the right condition and they release the right strength to the human detection system of amino acid, then in that point where I made black spots is where we see the creation of matter in plasma. So if there has been an understanding, there has been a problem to understand how matter is created in the plasma, this is how it's done. This is exactly how, let's say, Earth or other planets in the plasma of the star are created. The center point, the principal point, sits in the center of the whole structure. But as the fields in this center point interact and spread out and pull themselves back into keeping the parallel magnetic gravitational fields. At the point of interface is where we see a friction, very much the way the light is created by the interaction of the gravitational magnetic field of the Earth and the gravitational magnetic field of the Sun leads to creation of the plasmas in the strength and the size that they are much weaker than the Earth gravitational magnetic field. As they are pulled towards the center of the Earth, they create a light on this planet. The same thing happens. Instead of being the plasma of a light, it becomes at the strength which becomes the plasma of a matter. And this is what the scientists have been calling God particles. God particles are the black spots, and that's how they are created in the plasma, where the gravitational magnetic field of the plasma in going out and the ones which are attracted back in their interface create a small plasma at the strength of the gravitational magnetic field of the amino acid of the man, where the man can detect it. If you understood this, then you understand as the plasma is continuously dynamic and moves on, different state of matter at different strength are created within the same plasma. But man, because of his strength in amino acid, has not the ability to be able to detect this. So, within the structure of a plasma, it's a very active process of life. Because it's not just only what is visible to the man, but it's what is happening which is invisible to his detection system. It's very much like what we see in the solar system. We don't see all the structures within the solar system. What we see as the number of the planets, as cosmic dust, and what we see as meteorites, these are the ones which are at the strength of the man's vision and detection system. There are other entities and lives within the structure of this plasma too, but because we are not able to detect, they pass us by. So, within the plasma of a single GANs you produce, within the plasma of solar system is heaving with life, decision-making, integral, beautiful structures. As our development changes from development of the GANs to matter to GANs system, just I'm writing something not to forget to tell you. Then we able to detect more and more of these. They have existed. It's our lack of knowledge which has blinded us to their existence. Man can learn every level of existence within the plasma of a GANs or within the plasma of this solar system. We do not need to go and find what happens in deep space to see what type of life it is. We have more or less the whole totality within the plasma of this solar system. And as I said, it'll take thousands of years for man to understand the totality of it. Now that we have opened this technology. It's the same I was explaining to the scientists who will build the new detection systems for GANs here in Italy. In the past 2 or 3 days, we've been spending a lot of time with these scientists. Is that we are not looking into what they call, like we were with the lady yesterday who's been 15 years in what I call mobile cabbage state. She has no memory, but she knows everything. They were using about 6, 7 different type of what they call resonance frequency computers programs. This guy had everything I've ever seen in the most advanced technique shows for resonance, cell resonance. I explained to them, you have moved the body into the physical move, but the person is still internally absent. The reason for this is because you have not you do not have a system to reach the emotional part. All man's systems up to now is keyed for electrons and electronics. Now, that's why I said are open the spin-offs. Developing systems we can measure GANs with the dynamic plasma is the state of art. And you can help a person even physically to move when you understand the state of the emotion. Physical body is ready to move, but emotion is not ready. So we are developing, it started here in past few days, and it goes to our support team and colleagues in Albania to complete it in the coming months. New systems for detecting the strength of the plasma as a GANs. So from now on, when you, for example, come to a patient, you don't look at the resonance because you did everything. That's why we have not succeeded much, because we only look at the magnetical. We have forgotten about gravitational. Magnetical is the physical body. Gravitational is the essence of the emotion, which is in the center of the brain. So you can relate one to another and understand the whole structure. So you can find, we will develop in the coming months with the support of scientists in France, here and other part of the world. Hopefully we'll see a huge collaboration between the Iranian and American and other scientists around the world in this aspect of the plasma technology, that we will measure the true meaning of life. One of the things which all of you, and it's been my failure to communicate this across to you, is, as I said, to me so natural, and I've realized in the past few days people never understood this, is the difference between the matter and GANs. Matter cannot replicate itself. It's the same plasma. You separate it from its structure of the copper wire. But when you come into the GANs state, it can communicate, it can replicate. So matter is a state of solid non-replication. GANs is a state of the same element in a life, in giving life and decision making. This is the distinction which to me over years has been normal, and I realize in recent past, most of you have never understood. That's why GANs looks strange to you, it's something new. A table cannot replicate itself. But a cell, which is the same carbon, the same oxygen, in a state of plasma, because it can connect in a free level, can replicate itself and become life. So the difference between the matter and the GANs, matter is for a state of non-replication and in non-movement, I call it. And when you change the same element into a GANs and you put it with others, you create possibilities and availability of decision making and replication of the same element. Can you close that? It's cold here. So now maybe we can enlighten ourselves a bit further and understand what and how we can make the difference. Nations like Japan, nations like Iran, United States and China in so many ways will not become energy suppliers, but they become the providers of the new style of energy. Transportation will not be done the way as super tankers. Transportation will be done for receiving new and different type of energy through transmutation of the matter. You don't do teletransport, but you do exactly what you do with the CO2. You extract it in the direction of the scent. The changes are very huge. The changes are beyond dimension. Now that we have opened it up. Okay, what I'm showing you here, you can see very much like what Brad showed us before. In this chart here, These jars are over 4 years, 3-4 years old now. I have created a condition inside each cup to replicate life in different planets or solar system around the universe. This structure you see is growing on its own. Okay, because I replaced the phone, it's coming back. And then there is here, you can read, is in Farsi, which says, Maye Zendagi, means water of life, the essence of creation. And in this, you see the essence of creation of man. It's red in color. Inside, it has created itself and is the sugar beginning of the life. This is nearly 4 years old. What I've done, inside these containers, I don't touch them, I don't move them, because then I change the environment. Inside these containers, in between the layers, I have established here between these layers, I have established the condition of part of the universe as I know. So the animal or the creature I get in the cup, as you see it, if I can show it to you this way, gives you the existence of life, where to expect when we achieve, when we arrive in this point in the universe. This is very, very simple. So I do not create a condition in the water. I create a condition in the environment, in the wall of the system here. And I allow, if you look, this one is black, if you can see deep enough, with a white growing. There was nothing in here. I have created a condition where this environment, as you see, like a salt, being created around it. 3 are open, which means I leave the dictation of the environment dictate what life is going to be. If I expand this, for example here, then you get a different kind of life. I create the environment of life, let's say on planet Zeus. Here I create a life in the universe Z. But I dictate the condition of environment within the structure of these walls. And then we replicate the same thing in the health section. We replicate the structure of the lung or liver in the same cups. So when you drink the water, you drink the water of the perfect liver condition according to your blood. And then the body learns what is forgotten and reprocesses. And totally, when you look at it, I put it in a 4 dimension, if it can be seen, because I see it. There are 4 reactors. It's a balanced condition. It's what Mike showed as 4 loops. But if you look, each loop is connected to the other. It's very much the structure of, I cannot get the picture correctly. It's the structure of the helium. Yeah, that's perfect. You have 2 protons and 2 neutrons. And all connected to each directly. It's infinity locked to infinity. So there are no energy losses. It's a stable condition irrespective of the environment I made around it. Then in a practical way, when it comes to, let's say, Alzheimer's, we replicate the same condition of the brain structure in this process. With Armand, we are running a test now with a girl of, how old is she, 9? 7 years. And we have seen the change, the parents have seen the change, what, in 4 weeks, 6 weeks? Just understanding this structure, you change the life of a child forever. Where she would have been a handicap, mentally, what do you call it, backwards or slightly compared to her peers, now she lives a normal life. She's equal to the others. You bring respect and life to a person. And as simple as that, creating this condition, you change the life of a man. And in so many ways, all this knowledge is in addition to the knowledge of what you create in the plasma technology. If you look at it, this is in so many ways a neurosystem. This is a blood system of, let's say, the right side. This is the neurosystem and blood system of the left side of the body. And whatever is created in the center, according to the level where it is in there, is a liver, is a kidney, or whatever. Then you dictate the production of materials and life. And even when you go further, we can teach you how you control the emotion of the life too. And all this comes from a simple understanding of the creation of life in this little tube. And there are a number of these here that are hanging around because I built these over years. When I learned, understood, it's been kept. But if you go back to the process of the copper and copper, where you produce copper oxide, in this process, by putting a copper on both sides of the plate, of the environment, one in the center and one in the surrounding, we have created a specific condition that the nanomaterial can be released and only in copper level. So all the material which are used or created as a GANs in this unit initially will be copper oxide because there is some water with the oxygen in it in this container. And when the atomic structure of the water releases all its system, all its oxygen to the copper, then you achieve the production of atomic hydrogen. But at the same time, because of the copper-copper condition, you create an environment where its magnetic gravitational field strength is of the pure copper. So you can put this system in the environment where you can collect copper from the environment. The expansion and the extension into this is by dictating the sealed unit which you see here. For example, in the environment of, let's say, Beijing or Shanghai or London, you try to find the poisons or the materials which are in the environment due to environmental contamination, and you just drop this system and you tune the current to the production, and then the material attracts all the, let's say, lead from the air or copper from the air. This is one of the reasons I asked Armand to produce this, is to show a new dimension in matter absorption. This, now that we've gone further in the understanding of the technology, these are the new magnets created by the environment inside the cylinder. But once you put that condition in, it's permanent. This system, once it's adjusted and works properly, will only attract copper. You can literally put it in a copper mine and collect copper around it. Because now it works in an atomic structure plasmatic condition. This is how planets absorb matters from their environment of the solar system. So now we are going in a simple way, showing the work of the universe galaxial condition. This is extending the knowledge into production of material in space. In your free plasma, you create a combination of different energies, and you create such a system in your reactor or separately, and in that environment, whatever energy in the plasma of the free core is, which is in parallel or equal to this detector, will be collected. And then this is how the new magnetic field technology adds to the knowledge. If people understand what is on the table, what Arman has shown in a very simple way, will change a lot of things, even in water contamination, in purification of water. You want to withdraw, let's say, any copper in a drinking water in your house, you put one of these at the strength of the copper, and then what do you call it, calcium if it's too much in the water, and then the system just attracts it as it passes. You don't touch anything else you want in your system. This is one of the reasons I went for this now. Goes back in the discussion and the teaching of the medical side with Dr. Elia last week. The process of making dialysis systems without intrusion in the body for the working of the kidney. In fact, because the condition of poisons in the blood, what you call the surplus material which has to be released by the blood, is in against gravitational magnetic field, you can add this as a wristwatch on the body and collect the poisons which you want to take out of the blood. Because at that point, the blood carries a gravitational magnetic field strength of the matter, not the matter. So this extension goes to the extension of dialysis machines. In the coming time, we show the working of this. So the machine can continuously adjust itself to different strength of different materials which you want to extract from the body. The same way as you receive most of your energy from the environment, you can extract matters from the environment in the energy level and then convert it to matter.
Mr. Keshe, there was a question, can sulfur-based drugs, pharmaceuticals that reside in the body be removed by a process like that?
Yes, of course. This is one of the process of the spin-offs in the university. We said we changed the course, but slowly, slowly, as a large number of people are understanding more, we teach more. Now you understand, you've seen the process, now Arman will show the process. You need very, very low amount of current flow. Your brain does not produce kilowatts and megawatts of energy to create plasmas of the matter in the body. It works in micro and nano level. And this process is that. This is what we're trying to extend the knowledge. The work of kilowatts and megawatts, which has been pushed through by the knowledge of Tesla and Edison, has to be shelved. Gives the man the power to decide how and where and the way he wants the matter to appear to him. A lot of you and a lot of scientists around the world got busy with the GANs and this new nanomaterial which we have released. The intention was to keep you busy till we release you the totality and why and where. Understand what these reactors in front of you mean. The energy of the sun in the slowing down, like the snowball, in passing of the time and in interaction with the other materials and fields in the shell of this plasma of the solar system, has reduced to different strengths that you people call it different materials at different strength. One strength is hydrogen, one strength is uranium. But in fact, it's different amount of the same thing in the same container. Now, exactly the process which your body does to convert the matter into energy. We have shown you how to use these matters like copper to create back the matter to energy, and in interacting with each other you create a plasma which has no dimension in the center. In fact, what you have created in the center, what you call free plasma, is the center of the sun. So now, what would you like it to be? A fish. To taste like a fish. To have the texture of the fish, but not the life of the fish, that man shall not kill. You want gold? It depends how you extract it from it and what level. And how much of it you want. All you have developed with these cores is the physicality without dimension, which is the essence of the soul of the man and the creator. And you are so busy with it because you're so entangled in physicality that you don't even see it. Now, we give man, every man. You have used ping pong balls, you have used little light bulbs, you have used copper balls, and all you've done, you're rotating them like the sun. And what you have created is an entity without dimension, but understanding of the need of the others around it. You have created the soul of the creator, but you're too blind to see. Not every one of you will understand what I'm talking about till you reach the point of maturity. Because you are, as humans, have a defect of what we call nitrogen. Because that's your fingerprint. This is the essence where the energy of the sun, when reaches gravitational magnetic field of the earth, can convert itself to a balanced condition, which is nitrogen. That's why it rains upon you every day and night. Because if it doesn't, it will clog the whole thing up on the top and you will not receive the energy of the sun. The purpose of rain is not water. The purpose of rain is to clean up continuously the nitrogen conversion on the top layer from the interaction of the magnetic gravitational field of the earth and the sun. That's why rain is life-giving, because rain brings down the nitrogen, which initiates the release of hydrogen energy. Man has not understood this yet. So in your reactors, we have taken the element of the dimension and position. And what you gather, in essence, is the energy of the universe. Now you create the interface between that and what you want. The free plasma is the sun, is the soul of the creator. When you can gather enough of it, that becomes strong enough, like 129 Tesla, then you see how much gold you want out of it, at what position and where. As I said to the knowledge seekers in the past 2-3 days when we were getting ready, was, what do you desire has to be. And they all looked at the physical desire. Because in your body, in your center of your brain, you have the same construction as the center plasma, as a free plasma. So, because it's made of the same carbon, oxygen and hydrogen, it interacts with it. And what does it do? It transfers your desire directly and instantaneously to where you have sent it to or where you want it to go. I explained to the scientists that the system they developed, actually the system that is on the table, an extension of knowledge with the scientists, zero-time communication systems were sitting in front of them and they were not realizing. And it's so simple. Total cost, I was told, will be about $50. We are looking at the conditions now that, let's say, if you have, let's say, cancer in South America, this is not a fantasy, this is a physical system on the table. It's going to be tested very soon. You can send a drop of your blood to the center, let's say in China. A monitor guy gets the blood, puts in the system which is seen. That's your blood without the cancer should be, and the blood with the cancer, with the cancer cell given. He can tune from remote, and the cancer can change in your body. The theory of this goes back, if you understand, because Einstein didn't understand it, he called it the funny things. When you change the polarity of one atom, the other one changes as well, but he couldn't understand why, because he never understood the principle of twinity.
Yeah, it's also
That
called
was
quantum entanglement.
Or spooky action at a distance.
Yeah, spooky action. Now this spooky action sits on the table in front of me yesterday for 3 hours.
So these tests have been done before, in terms of what I've seen or what I've researched is that they would take somebody's blood and take it far away from them, and then subject the owner to different emotions and measure the responses on the blood at certain distances. And the funny thing that they found was that it was a funny thing, because the distance did not matter. It was always an instant change with the person's blood, no matter what the distance was, when the person showed specific emotions. So what you're talking about is exactly what we just talked about in the reactor, except that when you send some blood, let's say, it's already attached to you and at your magrev. So by being able to change the coatings, like as in the reactor, you can change that magrev of the blood, and it's instantaneously brought back to the original owner.
Very much so. But let me tell you what I was explaining yesterday. If you understand the implication of this development in the coming months, because we're going to pursue it very rapidly, very vigorously to be done, because it's part of the space technology communication line, it brings back with you with a line of connection with your emotion. Which means, actually the scientist said, mobile phones are useless now, huh? I said, now you understand. Good morning. What does this mean? It means as much as you are connected to your mother because you have the telephone number through your gene connection and gravitational magnetic field, the funny thing you call it, the spooky thing. Now you can, and it's part of your brain structure, what I call zero-time communication with who you like to think. You think about your, let's say, wife, and you think about your son, and you dial the number according to what you're going to be taught. You better think good thing about him. Don't say, my son, I love you, and say, what a stupid guy. Because he hears both of them. And this is what is going to come. This is what is part of the development of this technology. In creating a balanced field in your systems. Be it a simple spherical ball, be it a star formation. If, until you don't create and don't understand how to create that balance, your flight system fails, or your energy production fails. It's so simple, that millions of stars are created every day, but it's so complicated that it needs to create its own balance. Every day, every single day, in your own body, millions of star formations are created in the form of atomic structure. Individual entity, individual cells, individual atomic structure. Conversion of fields from the lymph into the matter of your physical body as a gans. Try to understand that, then you will understand how you can fly. In the jetliners of today, you see trails in the end of the direction of the flow of the engine. So the trail comes after the engine and shows, you see the craft ahead and the trail behind it. In the space technology of magnetic gravitational field, you create the direction of the flight, clear a passage. Because you already dictated the line of flight, you find out that your craft is more or less at the end of the light towards you than in the direction of the head. So you don't fly in. If you see very detailed flight of flying objects, you always see the object at the end of the comb towards where the flight is taking place. So you create a field ahead of you, which is in the direction of flow. Secondly, through your reactors, you create a clear passage, magnetic field passage, which your craft flies into. So it's totally opposite to the jetliner flights. And you see it in this egg very easily in this demonstration.
This is what you talked about then with when we were first looking at the GANs and we seen those magnetic field lines where there is no GANs. That's what we fly into. So that's the magnetic field or maggrav channel that you're talking about that's created.
Either more or less, you create an envelope of magnetic gravitational fields. And you fly into it. It's safe. It's of the same essence, and it's the strength which your craft does not need to fight with. There is no friction. Space flights are frictionless at the point of physical contact. As you know, this has been the main objective of this foundation, taking man into space, taking man into joining what we call the universal family. And the qualification and the only thing which any race needs to join the universal family is accepting peace. This way, the whole space stays peaceful. I was explaining to Dr. Elia yesterday. She said, but in other planets and other places, they kill each other on Earth, everything else like Earth. I said, whatever happens, that's within the planet. When a planet, when the entities or life, what we call the intelligent life on a planet, it reaches the point to cross the border of the space of the planet into what we call what is known as galaxy, or into the space of the universe. That's the time when we take action. That's the time when we enforce and we close till the peace, understanding the reality of the peace, is accepted by the entities within that planet. If we allow you to enter into space prematurely, then we cause huge mess outside. And a lot of effort has been made to stop such a mayhem in the space. Does not matter how advanced man becomes, even with the introduction of this technology, man will not be allowed to enter into the space beyond the boundary of this solar system unless man changes his habit. To pray for your own souls, that the human race soul as a whole and the soul of all the living things on this planet reaches the peace, a state of peace. Doesn't matter in what level they live. at the bottom of the sea, or at the top of the atmosphere of this planet. They are created according to the condition of this planet. So they carry the soul of this planet. They all have to come in peace. We are making all the preparation for man to join the universal community in the correct way, and this is part of the structure. The 12 become part of the Council for Universal Connection, and in time they will understand their responsibility. We have chosen to ignore the pain of the others because it suits us to live and do what we like. So we can detect and measure and be aware of the existence of the smallest entity near to us. It's just us who has to become clear with ourselves. We have finished with the kingships and religious leadership. Because, as I explained yesterday, to be a king, you mean you have to be better. And that creates division. And that division creates war. Because you have to protect it. All men are equal, the same as all the creatures in the universe.